It's right on my screen. I don't know what you have.
It's not right on this one. I will call the October 2nd, 2017 City Council meeting to order. Call of the roll.
John Hawkins,
Here.
Matt McKinney,
Here.
Brian Miller,
Here.
Jim Talbot, Logan Welch.
Here.
We have a request to cancel the 5:50 p.m. public hearing due to withdrawal of the petition by the applicant. So call for a motion to approve the agenda without item 18, with item 18 removed.
So moved. Second.
All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Section A, petitions, communications and requests. This is the time of the meeting that a citizen may address the council on a matter not on the agenda, except in cases of emergency. The City Council will not take any action at this meeting, but may ask city staff to research the matter or have the matter placed on an agenda for a future meeting. Does anyone have anything they want to bring up? Yes, come up to the podium. And
I guess I'm the person that's representing, I don't know who, but
okay.
we just have signatures here that are for having the Quick Start come into Webster City
Okay.
that I would just like to present to the council.
All right.
We have over 100 signatures of people who are in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for taking that and giving it your consideration.
Okay, thanks very much for coming in. Anyone else have anything for? No. We have the on the Wednesday this week at 10 a.m. Briggs Woods are doing their groundbreaking out there. So anybody who's around wants to go out and enjoy that. And Seneca Foundry is doing a open house. You can tour the foundry and have a bit of lunch out there. I think it's between 10 and 2 on Friday. And then, of course, don't forget we've got our town hall meeting on the October 30th at 7 p.m. at the middle school. Anyone else have public information?
Are costumes okay to wear? To the
Costumes are okay to wear, yes. Recommended. Okay. Public information, we've done that. B, the following items have been deemed to be non-controversial routine actions to be approved by the council in a single motion. If a council member or a member of the audience wishes to have an item removed from this list, it will be considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. We have minutes of September 18, 2017, resolution on payroll for period ending September 16 and paid on September 22nd. And a resolution on bills and funds list.
I'll move to approve collectively.
Okay.
Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Aaron, you got a September 22?
Yes, I see that, but I didn't, as you see, that's what my little giggle was about.
Oh, well, once approved.
But I didn't say the year, so it's fine. Well, it's a bit like the other bit, I wasn't going to mention it,
Okay,
the
well,
prices.
once approved for your own.
Okay. C, general agenda. One is the first, is Luann here? Luann's not here. No, Luann Jackson's not here? No. Okay, maybe we'll just go straight to report from Linda Christensen, Executive Director of Webster Area Chamber of Commerce. Good evening, Linda.
Good evening. We've had a very busy summer in Webster City. The Chamber hosted numerous events throughout the summer, and we're gearing up for a busy fall and holiday season. We helped kick off the Links sports season with a tailgate and pep rally in August, and hosted riders from all over the United States attending the Doodlebug reunion and our final Music in the Park series in September. The annual golf outing sponsored by the Chamber was held in September at the Links, and we had a beautiful day. A lot of fun was had by all, and plans are in the works for next year's event to be held in June. The first Business After Hours event sponsored by the Chamber was held on Thursday, August 10th, and was co-sponsored by the Seneca Street Saloon and In Tandem Workspace. We are starting to offer a number of networking opportunities for businesses to host a coffee, a lunch and learn, a Business After Hours event, which will be in addition to our quarterly Chamber coffees. The most recent Chamber coffee was hosted by Bowman Funeral Home, and the December coffee will be hosted by Hamilton County Extension. We're excited to help celebrate 2 local businesses and a great addition to our community, and we would like to invite everyone to attend their ribbon cuttings. The Lions Club will officially open their park on Thursday, October 12th at 5:30 at the park location, so please come on out and see the hard work that's been done. Fairy Tale Salon will host a ribbon cutting to showcase their updated salon location and their new name on Monday, October 23rd at 4 p.m., followed by an open house at 6. U.S. Cellular will have a ribbon cutting on Friday, November 3rd at 4 p.m. at their location at the corner of 2nd Street and Wilson Avenue. The Chamber continually promotes our local businesses community so that they can continue and thrive. On October 19th, Ladies Night Out is being planned with a lot of fun, great food, and fantastic deals from our local restaurants and retailers. A number of great prizes are being offered, so we ask all the ladies to bring your friends and take advantage of this great promotion. Our local business owners are truly invested in our community. These are folks who volunteer for service organizations that build parks and help children in the community. They are coaches for our youth sports teams. They volunteer in our schools, and they know the value of shopping locally, so their dollars are reinvested in our community. When you buy local, a significant amount of money stays in our community. A study just showed that when $100 is spent at a local business, $68 remains in the community, and that compares to $43 spent at a big box retailer. So, here's where I'm going to ask for all of our residents to help us out. Keep in mind all these things that I have said when you are planning your holiday shopping, and please shop locally first. The Chamber Education Committee has been really busy. It's been reorganized and a number of events being planned. Last week, Square returned to Webster City and presented seminars entitled Square Up Your Business, in which local business owners gained information about managing their business more efficiently, utilizing their electronic payment systems. Throughout a 2-day period, businesses were able to attend a morning session, schedule free one-on-one consultations with Square, and attend an evening session where a panel of local business owners shared their experiences with the group. It's a great and very well attended event. We're also working hard to bring experts to town on business and financial planning, sustainability, succession planning, diversity, employer rights, marketing, and other opportunities through the Education Committee. A committee was formed to begin the process of developing Manufacturing and Industry Day to promote the myriad of opportunities that Webster City has to offer. And as John had said, there are a couple opportunities that you can go to this week, which is Construction Week, Manufacturing and Industry Week. So we'd like to invite everyone to a couple events, one hosted by Mary Ann's Specialty Foods and the other Seneca Foundry. Mary Ann's will be hosting a job fair on Thursday and having an open house on Friday. Seneca Foundry is hosting the Iowa Central Community College Career Academy on Thursday and having an open house on Friday. So it's going to be a busy day for our manufacturing community. Information on everything that I mentioned can be found at our website at visitwebstercityiowa.com. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, and we try to have daily to have current updates. We'd like to extend an invitation for folks to become involved in our community and the Chamber as we work hard to promote our fine community. I know of a certain couple who might or might not be related to me that help to deliver table tents once a month and help by keeping a scrapbook of chamber events. I told my dad he was voluntold for this job. No matter your age or if you only have an hour a day, an hour a week, or an hour a month, we can find a place for you. So you could be a great big help to the chamber and the activities that we do. As always, the door is always open at the chamber, so if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call, email me, text, or Facebook message me, and that sort of thing. So, does anybody have any questions on what's happening at the chamber?
Downtown trick or treating is on, right?
Yes, there's a group of retailers that decided to go ahead with that.
Okay.
And my apologies for the mix-up, it really wasn't ever a chamber event, so my bad. Anybody else have any questions?
Just curiosity for equal consideration, when are you gonna have a men's night out?
Seriously, it was suggested to me today that there might be an opportunity at one of the local establishments for the wives to drop their husbands off and come back and get them later. So we're still working on that. Stay tuned.
Has Youth Advisory, have you guys been in contact at all about the holiday?
No, but Adri just mentioned it to me, so I would love to talk to you guys later.
Okay.
Love to. One of my goals at the chamber is to start trying to get all of these organizations in town, on the same calendar, on the same page. So if you have an event, if you have a community event or whatever, please go on to the visitwebstercityiowa.com website, click on the events calendar, and submit your events. We'd love to have you the clearinghouse for all the events in the area. It also helps me to plan activities. So I don't, plan something right over, the commissioner or Arts Are Alive or something like that. We don't wanna compete, we wanna work together. Plus, if there's we can do an event that's, everybody has their smaller events, if we can join them together, we can have one heck of a doozy. So let's try to work together with all of these organizations. I think it will benefit everyone.
Okay, thanks, Linda. Okay, we'll have an update, Wilson Brewer Park project from Gary Groves, chairperson of Wilson Brewer Historic Park Committee.
Hey, Chief. Yeah.
Footage for this.
Ready?
Yep.
Well, we remember, bear with me a little bit, just getting over a cold. But as you remember, about a year ago, September of last year, we had a joint meeting of this council together with our commission. And at that time, we adopted and approved and adopted a plan of restoration and renovation for the Wilson Brewer Park. That was a 3-phased plan that we adopted, and since that date, we've been working on phase 1, and phase 2 now. Phase 1, you recall, is organizing people to work on the various subcommittees or lead committees for each building and the grounds and different parts of the park itself. Those committees have been active since about January of this year. Tonight, I should update you on what's happened from the standpoint of the progress on renovation within the park. I think some of you already know that the church has been renovated in the sense that it's heating and cooling now, much to the really the anxiety of Carolyn Miller, who was very happy to see that done, because that provides for the weddings and the events and the speakers that she has coming in a nice forum, comfortable forum. The school is in the process of, we know that's about a $17,000 to $20,000 project on the school. And Boone Valley Housing, Bob's one of the members of that committee, have committed to the commission the fact that they would commit those funds to make certain the school is updated and as soon as possible, perhaps even this year. Wayne Schofel is getting the figures together and the needs of that church, or that school, and I think that's the range it's in, 15,000 to 20,000. So we're hoping we can do that yet this year if the weather permits. The cabins are the, is that me?
No.
The cabins are the main focus tonight. And the city is really committed itself to funds for the cabins, as well as we've had some, hotel motel tax added, and we've had private contributions added. So we don't have quite 125,000 by a long ways, but we're getting closer to that figure enough that we would like to see the contract that's up before you tonight with Wayne Schlofeld, or Schlofeld Engineering, be approved for engineering services so we can move on. I'd like to see a contract for bids offered on the foundation itself, because those foundations for the cabins, the new foundations, are proposed to be put east of the existing cabins across that road on a higher ground. And those cabins would be turned to face the east, or the west, and in doing that, we are creating a larger green space between the depot and the cabins, the courthouse, the church, and the school. So we have a nice green destination park, hopefully in the future. So the weather is catching us a little bit, but hopefully the foundations at least can be done. And if at all possible, the moving contracts, to move those over if winter doesn't set in, to set them on the new foundations. Then the bids going out for the chinking and the logs and the roof and all the other things that have to be taken place within the cabin, those contracts hopefully can be made maybe this winter or next spring, so we can finish the work in the cabins themselves. Meantime, we have a finance committee, or fundraising committee, that's been working since about summer, maybe this summer. People that include Bob Erickson's one, Dean Bowden's on there with us, and Heidi Tesdahl and Jarita Peterson and Dick Anderson. We are the committee that is rounding up and organizing a way of how to approach people for donations, how we're going to publicize that. In order to really effectively do that, we have to have a brochure of some type that sets out the artist visual picture of how the park's going to look within a brochure, and the wording and the language and the information on that brochure is being drafted and prepared by Nancy Kaiser. We hope to have that by the end of this month. And once we have that information, we're ready to move on a fundraising effort. We think the timing is important because it's coming at the end of the year. Gives people the option, if they want to make a donation this year, they can do that. So we're looking, as we approach this, will take a lot of money. As we approach this, we're not only looking for larger donations, but smaller donations, people that, whatever they can give towards this park is certainly going to be welcome. That's about where we are right now. Bob, do you have any further comments, just where we're going with this fundraising?
You pretty well hit it on the head.
Kim? Any questions?
Just one, so the fundraising is starting now for the overall picture.
Well, the fundraising's been in effect for a while, but it's been somewhat unofficial.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Is there going to be some emphasis put on the cabins in the first quarter, if you will, of the fundraising, due to the fact that if we do start moving the cabins, there's future work to be done that may not be met by our budget that we have allocated?
Oh, no.
Yeah, that might be the immediate need.
Yeah, we realize that. I think roughly, Kent, we have approximately, what, 45 plus another 40? Somewhere
Yeah,
in
and some
there.
pledges beyond that too.
See, we really haven't, other than approaching you folks and getting a commitment, see, we haven't really approached people. This is more unofficial at this point. It's been on Facebook. I think your wife's been doing a lot to make people aware of these contributions, but the effort is going to be a blitz. And we have to show the public that we're doing something, and we know what the costs are going to be, we know what it's going to look like. and before we can really ask people to contribute much.
And I think I'm kind of jumping on anyway, because later in the agenda, I think we talk about the request for engineering help and stuff like that on that specific item that needs improved. So maybe we can touch more on it then, but again, I appreciate your work you're doing, and I'm excited to see what comes out of it.
Anything else? Okay, thanks.
Let's do it. Thanks, Gary. Okay. Item 4 is a resolution authorising the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with Schofield Engineering Incorporated, Webster City, Iowa, for engineering services in connection with the Wilson Brewer Park Cabins project. Kent, did you want to?
And as Gary said, this is for the first phase, and Zach developed this agreement, and William here did not have any problems with the agreement as well on that. And again, some of the timeline wasn't be able to form due to the weather, as well as once that hopefully if the council approves this, we'll be able to create a timeline on that, subject to weather conditions.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone have any questions? We have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Item 5 is a recommended approval for issuance of beer and liquor licences by the Iowa Department of Commerce for the following. A, renewal of Class C beer permit and Sunday sales for La Perla Euroca LLC at 611 2nd Street. Call for motion.
So moved. Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item 6 is a second reading of a proposed ordinance, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances for the City of Webster City, Iowa, 1996, by adding paragraph 33 to chapter 65, section 02, providing the addition of a stop sign on Fairmeadow Drive. Call for motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Did you want to waive the third reading?
I would like to waive the third reading.
Second.
So, motion to waive the third reading and pass them. Yeah. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I move to pass and adopt.
I'll second
All those in favour say aye.
it. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
While we're on that topic, is the traffic committee currently looking into the study on Fairmeadow for those temporary stop signs? Are they working on that?
I think it's on the agenda for the next meeting. They haven't met since the last council meeting, so.
Okay, fair enough, thank you.
I had another thought about whether we needed one at the top end of that.
Top end is like up like
When you come
new
up
road.
off the beach to the top,
Sure.
where the arrow tells you to go straight ahead.
It's kind of blind. The hill's kind of blind.
Well, I figured in the future it's going to need a stop sign. I don't know whether we should put one there now. Sure. But anyway, that's for the traffic committee.
You would have the ones here if you want to jump back
Oh.
to that.
Hello, Elaine. Come on up.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
was I late?
No, you're right on time.
I thought I was supposed to be here.
You're right in between the... Hey, you're right. Come up to the podiums over there. Thank you very much.
For those of you who don't know me, I am Luann Jackson, and I am administrator at our local Veteran Affairs office. I'm here tonight to inform you of an upcoming display of the Remembering Our Fallen Memorial Wall, which will be open to the public at 749 2nd Street, which is our RSVP building. It will be from October 18th through the 28th, from noon to 7 p.m. And it represents the fallen soldiers since 9/11. And also on display, we'll have information that's been put together by a young Hamilton County resident, and it's about Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, our POW MIAs, the Vietnam War, and other military topics. There is no admission charge, so I'm here to ask for help in advertising and donations to cover the cost of the wall being here. The South Hamilton Recorder News, the Messenger, and The Freeman Journal will run stories on the display to advertise that it's open to the public, and we are setting radio spots for announcements. On Saturday, the 28th, from 9 to 1, the last day of the display, we encourage all veterans and service members and family members to bring their discharge papers for the Veterans Information Expo, which we usually have once a year, and this kind of on the culmination of the display of the wall. We'll have experts from Des Moines, from the health benefits, disability claims, education, Iowa workforce development, and the Veterans Home and Burial Benefits. And we also are in, we have in Vietnam books, and any of our Vietnam veterans are encouraged to stop by on the 28th, or they can stop by our office and show us their discharge papers that they were in Vietnam. And we'll issue one of those books to them. There is no cost for that. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Seven, first reading of a proposed ordinance, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Webster City, Iowa, 1996, by modifying sections to Chapter 63 pertaining to speed regulations. Yep, Matt.
It's coming up on the screen.
Okay. This is to cut our speed on Beach Street, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
It's supposed to come on the screen.
I've had a day of that. Technology not being my friend.
Oh, there you're gonna say speeding.
Yeah, I've had a good year.
Touch wood. Oh, the laser pointer?
Okay, this is what is proposed.
No, it's the current one right now.
Okay, yes, no, they're at 55. This is what it currently is right now. We start out with the 45 zone right there, just to the, well, it's about 40 feet to the south of the entrance off of Fair Meadow Drive. So it's really close to that area. We'd like to extend it further to the south on the, well, it's 1,840 feet south of Wall Street. Which Wall Street's right up there at the top of the picture there. Can I just go over here?
Yeah.
I can't hear very well if I do that. Currently right now, this is 45 right here. We want to extend it out to where we're on the other side of Hab's property or his entrance there. That does a couple things for us, in that it provides a better opportunity for Hab in his mailbox, which is not breakaway. But ultimately, it's going to be hopefully safer for people because they'll have more opportunity to slow down. We have 10 feet between the two, so that's the whole theory behind it. You give you enough time to slow down before we get into, well, it's going to be an active area coming out of Fair Meadow Drive. It already has a lot of traffic out there, and I only see it increasing.
Okay. Makes sense. Thanks.
Matt, just one question.
Sure.
For my mind, because I'm always worried about getting a speeding ticket coming to us, Brewer Creek. So the 25 actually is on the north side of Wall Street by the corner of the cemetery. That's where the 25 goes into effect.
Correct, that's where it is currently even.
Okay, no, I
All we're
just,
doing is extending the zone for the 35. Otherwise, everything else stays the same.
okay, no, I just wanted to know more than anything else, just for my own gratification.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
And you're extending the zone for the 45 as well, right? We're pushing it back.
We're pushing it back. We're not really extending it because it was where the 35 is now, but you need that 800-foot distance between the two, so we're just kind of pushing it backwards.
No, it makes sense. I mean, again, those speed zones are put in place without anticipating us putting a turn into it, so it makes sense. I think it'll greatly reduce the risk of a safety issue there or an accident, so I like it.
Matt, what's gonna be the speed zone on Fair Meadow then?
speed limit on Fair Meadow is residential. Unmarked residential is 25 miles an hour.
And everybody knows that.
It's part of your driver's license requirements to know how to drive.
Okay, anyone else have any questions for Matt? No. Thanks, Matt. Good call for a motion.
So moved. Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item 8 is the first reading of a proposed ordinance, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Webster City, Iowa, by amending Chapter 48, Public Health and Safety, Fireworks. So, do you want to talk on this one, Zach? Does anyone have any questions on the fireworks thing?
So, after, I think it was 2 meetings ago, the conversation was about amending that fireworks ordinance, and I've just simply done what you guys have asked of amending the date of discharge. Before, it was just in line with what the state code offered. Obviously, the state code allows us to change the use time, so you guys have chosen to change the terms to July 4th, starting at 10 a.m. until 12 a.m., which would be July 5th. And that would be the only time. The only other change I made was a clarification that Elise brought to our attention once she started enforcing it on sales, that we had a requirement that you couldn't be anywhere closer than 300 feet from a structure that was occupied or inhabited. And the clarification is just adding as a residence so that people make sure they understand it's not meaning any building that somebody just happens to be standing in. It's just more concerned about where somebody's living, upwards 4 apartments and or a house, for example. So.
I noticed and I believe the conversation went this way with just being the 4th onto the beginning of the 5th. There's no consideration for December 31st in here, am I correct? I'm
right.
not missing it since some line.
No, and that was that's how it was left, is that December 31st wasn't going to be an option, so I just left it off.
Has anyone spoke with anybody that may see that restricting any religious practices or holiday traditions? I think the feel I get from the community talking about this is some would like to have it gone altogether, of course, but restricting it to one day would definitely make it easier for the police to enforce and the neighborhoods to get it all out at once, if you will, for letting off fireworks. So, and a lot of cities have been doing similar moves, correct?
Yeah, so Des Moines, West Des Moines, Urbandale all had, I believe Urbandale, they all had it for 6 hours on the 4th of July, and now they're moving to actually eliminate it altogether as well.
Did they have that before the 4th of July?
Yeah, so this 4th of July, you were only allowed in Des Moines and West Des Moines and Urbandale to shoot it off for a 6-hour period on the 4th of July, and that was it. But then they've now gone away from that completely as well, so.
Does that make you happier, Chief, about the fireworks? I mean, your folks were pretty much getting a heck of a lot of phone calls on that.
It'll be easier for us to enforce, being on one day.
I guess we'll see how it goes next year. If it works fine, then.
I heard something like 2 weekends ago.
Is that just personal fireworks? That doesn't include?
No, that doesn't. You get fireworks permit for any other day.
I just know I was down to veterinarian just before the 4th of July getting additional tranquilizers for my dog.
Yeah.
And I talked to Dr. Yonda, and he said, how much longer does this go? And I told him, and there was a bunch of ladies in there, and they all looked. And I thought if there'd been stares or daggers, I'd been dead. I mean, there's so many people buying tranquilizers for their pets. And I think that's something we didn't think about. But I mean, we have such a short fuse anyway.
Right.
And I do like at least this, I mean, and it gives police a better chance to enforce it, so.
It allows for the people that want to enjoy it too, so hopefully everybody gets.
Well, they have an excuse to get it out of their system, and then.
One thing too, and this is just to say it out loud type thing, is, you know, the 4th doesn't always fall on a weekend, and usually July 5th, people do have to go back to work. It's not a holiday. So even though if this all passes in a minute, we may allow them till midnight on the 4th, I still hope people are neighborly and considerate. That's sometimes a tall ask, I realize that, but again, I hope they use this as a guideline, not necessarily I'm going to do it till midnight.
Okay. We call for a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Do we have to read that again or just one time suspension?
It'll be 3 readings.
It'll be three, yeah.
Meetings.
Yeah, so. Item 9 on the agenda is a resolution accepting work authorising final number 4 payment of $19,372.72 and retainage of $29,063.17 to be paid in 30 days to Wicks Construction Incorporated of Decorah, Iowa for completion of contract for the Lions Creek pedestrian bridge and sidewalk extension project. Matt, did you want to? I guess it's fairly self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
This is the final amount that is part of their contract minus the retainage.
Yeah.
Which we're also requesting that you authorize us to pay the retainage in 30 days if you approve this final payment.
Yeah. Anyone have any questions on the finished product? Yeah. Call for motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I've had a lot of comments how great it looks out there now, and they're glad we got the bridge in and all the rest of it, so.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's wonderful looking, and then again, I hope that the grass grows a little better in future years.
Yeah.
But one thing I will mention is there is a couple dark spots out there on the sidewalk that's been brought to my attention. And I don't know if it's something we could look at a future date, of course, but while we're on the topic, I just want to make that known that some safety concerns were brought up about some dark spots on that path. Towards the bottom.
Lighting along the.
Yeah, and it just like the street lights kind of all of a sudden stop for about a block and a half, and it's just kind of dark down there in the valley. But anyway, hope that's noted.
Okay. Item 10 is a resolution accepting work authorising final number 3 payment of $0, a retainage of $22,307.96 to be paid in 30 days to Jensen Builders Incorporated of Fort Dodge, Iowa for completion of contract for the 2017 PCC pavement repair project. And just once again, it's pretty explanatory. Yeah.
Straightforward, final payment, 0. Retainage, please let us pay it in 30 days.
Yeah.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Item resolution providing for notice of hearing on proposed plans and specifications and proposed form of contract and estimate of costs for the Union Street Hot Mix Asphalt Overlay Project on November 6th at 5:45 p.m. Once again, Matt.
This is I don't want to say a makeup project, but we mainly did concrete this year. This is a portion that we had allocated for asphalt, and we wanted to focus on some of the higher used areas in the town. Union Street doesn't get a lot of actual traffic. We have a lot of people who park down there as far as access to the pool and all that kind of stuff. So we'd like to improve that area so that it is much nicer for people to go down to the park and access those facilities.
Yeah. No, it's definitely needed. I mean, like a lot of places in town, but that is definitely used a lot, and it's.
I had a question too, and I apologize if it's in the memo. I just didn't pull it out of there. I read it last week, but does the Union Street project go all the way down to where it like tees into Dollar General? Or
It actually goes past that. It goes from 2nd Street
all the way
to Elm.
Okay. Yeah. And a person came to me and said there's some barricades around some sinkholes or potholes or stuff. That's being left like that because this may happen.
Actually, no, city staff is going to get that repaired before this project comes through.
Okay, sounds good. They were wondering why they're barricaded. I'm like, well, I'm assuming it has to do with this, but I'm glad you clarified that. I'll let you know. Thank you.
Yeah, that's quite a deep hole.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, man. Call for a motion?
So moved.
Second. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item 12 is a resolution setting a date for a public hearing on urban renewal plan amendment. for November 6th at 5:50 p.m. Carla, did you want to say anything on that one?
This is simply our tax abatement plan where infill lots qualify for the 100% tax rebate or tax exemption for 3 years. We renew it every 3 years and we're up for renewal now, so we can carry it on in 2018.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? Thanks, Carl. Call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item 13 is a motion on request from the Recreation and Public Grounds Director to approve specifications and seek bids for a backhoe for the Public Grounds Department. Kent, yeah. We've got nice pictures of the backhoe and things in the packet.
And this primary use is for the cemetery to dig graves out there, but equally important, the street department actually only has one backhoe of this size, and so when it's 20 below out and there's a water main break, a lot of times they need both backhoes to repair that, so we need two decent ones, and we've worked with Lanny in the past on this, and he'll develop these specs for me too.
Yeah. I see they've got a lot of things that's needed in the specs, so yeah. That'll be handy. Anyone else have any questions?
I move to approve.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kent. Item 14 is a request from the street supervisor to hire Reading Gravel and Excavating of Algona, Iowa, to crush an estimated 5,000 tonnes of concrete that is located at the street department. This one, once again, is pretty straightforward. I mean, it's all that concrete we've been picking up around town. So.
And in the memo, you know, it talks like it's kind of a premium to get your hands on that for, you know, putting down for backfilling and, you know, water mains, so that. What does it cost if you were just to buy crushed cement, like, or crushed rock?
We're gonna talk about that in a bit. With the fire station, what we're having to do there to give an idea of what that would cost for something like that.
Fair enough.
But it is a little pricier than having it, but.
Yeah. It's, was it $8 a tonne, $6,000 to set up, so, for this job, so.
To crush it.
To crush it, right. And they were the only person who put in a bid. No one else responded, so.
We've done this in the past, though, right?
Yeah.
How much a ton to crush it?
It's $8 a tonne to crush.
Oh.
Yeah. But they have a $6,000 setup fee, so. Mobilisation fee. I need to raise my mobilisation fee. Anyway, call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. I will say they used every bit of it. I mean, there's none left from the last time we did it, so it's definitely a needed product. Item 15 is a motion on request from the fire chief on additional cost to concrete replacement project at the fire station. Chuck, this is your chance.
Mayor, council members, thank you for your time. Allow me to just kind of update you on what's going on with the concrete project at the firehouse. As you've probably driven by and seen, the front apron has been completed. We found as we tore that out that it did have a sand base. We replaced, added a sub base of 1 inch rock and 6 inches of that, and then poured the concrete over that, so it's got a really good solid base now under it. We were just starting to have problems there that were actually creeping into the firehouse itself because it was the part connected right to the firehouse. So we started having some problems there. That's why we wanted to make sure we took care of that. It looks great, did a great job, and it's all set. As we began to tear up the back concrete, we found a lot of issues that we were unaware of that were there. We knew obviously that there had been some sinkage, When we tore the front up, we saw there was no sub base, so we could begin to assume that there was probably not gonna be a sub base in the back. But some of the unforeseen issues that we ended up finding out is the base itself was very poor soil, spongy, just really poor soil underneath there. And we found some degraded drains also in the process. And all of this caused some pretty deterioration of the concrete. Not only the part that we originally tore out, but once we tore that out, the voids underneath were seen on an additional piece that was beginning to cause it to buckle as well. So that additional piece got tore out as well, and which is right there where I'm standing actually. But so, and you could see as they put equipment on, it would sink literally this prior to rain too. So it wasn't just because of the rain. This is right after we pulled it up, or actually while we were pulling it up. The equipment would sink down 2.5 feet or more in certain spots as far as just having really poor sub-base and soil. So on the 25th of this last month, we met with the city manager, Public Works, Streets, myself, and an engineer, and we began looking at all the different issues that we had, and it was recommended by an engineer that we put in a 3-inch sub-base of 3-inch ballast sub-base to start with, and begin using a compactor also to compact the soil that is there. And as we put sub-base down, compact as we go. In doing this, the cost of estimated sub-base went from the original little over $5,000 for a 6-inch sub-base to well over 2 feet in some areas sub-base. It's going to be $12,000. In addition to that, some of the other costs that we're incurring in this, the amount that we're covering, to answer some previous question about how much or how far does some of this stuff go, it's about a 5,000 square foot area that we're dealing with just back there, so it gets expensive pretty quick. Some of the other costs that you saw in the memo were a little bit additional concrete for the part that we saw that was buckling with voids under it, a couple of downspouts, propane adnodes, and then some public work expenses like drain pipe, new drain grate, the concrete for the additional drain, and then just some amount in there for any other contingency costs that possibly could come up from this, so that we're prepared for that if it be. Also the cost of a sheep's foot compactor to make sure that we get it really good and compacted before we put it back in. Once we get the larger sub-base put down, we will put in some fine tillings, and then Peterson Construction is still contracted to come in and do the final grade and compacting, and then lay the concrete as well. So the request is a budget amendment to the concrete project at the firehouse of $15,386.39.
When you tore this out, you found the same thing as in the front, that it was a sand sub-base only?
Yes, sir. The only difference was the front was solid. It didn't shrink down when you put equipment on it or anything like that, whereas the back had just tremendous amounts of shrinkage. You could step on it and it would actually sponge back up. Just very poor soil. We also found some drainage pipes in there, brick. Not really sure what all is underneath there. So,
was there any formal soil testing done to determine you needed 12 to 24 inches of sub-base based on that?
Formal soil testing, not
like
no.
Taking samples to see what type of a base is I don't know if they go down 2 feet or what it is, but I was just curious.
No.
That's a good point, though. I wonder if that was done when it was first installed. Because obviously if they're using the same practice in the front and the soil is within 200 feet of each other, I mean, you gotta have similar stuff going on under there. So again, this is me being very naive to the cement business, but is the sand sub-base only a common practice?
Back then, as we've talked to some people, from what I understand it was. It's not now, obviously, but back then, 24 years ago.
I guess I do want to throw this in, I brought that up when you brought your first request for this too. I had the opportunity to help pour a lot of concrete over 50 years ago down in Ames, and a lot of the stuff that brought up was, you know, my comment at that time, the soil preparation wasn't done correctly, because I had watched, you know, the major contractors come in and they used either rollers, sheep's hoofs and everything else to get it totally packed down. But on the soil compaction, we've got a gentleman from Schneider. When you do, I mean, do you do heavy and highway or highway?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, how far you go down on that, because, I mean, you're looking at that. My question is, you know, what is really under there? Because I've had people talk about, you know, old gas stations and a litany of things, and maybe just junk. And to get it compressed down where, I mean, 20 years is not a long time on a concrete pad that thick.
No, sir.
I mean, you know, I mean, it's a limited usage when you think about it. It's not like a road. And I mean, for it to break up like that, I mean, that was not done correctly the first time. From a myopic experience 50 years ago. So.
And to my previous question about the price of rock, the crushed rock, is that the under extra unforeseen cost rock parentheses more sub base needed $12,000?
Yeah, and I think, and the bigger part of that is the size of rock, where they're looking to put the 3-inch ballast rock in there, which is be thicker than what the 1.5 or 2 inch you would typically do, and what we're getting crushed right
So
now.
we couldn't use the crushed rock for that. And do you know roughly what, like, that's kind of like saying, like 12 o'clock is it AM or PM, or like, it's like, like a rate to that. So that $12,000, is it so much per ton? Is it so much per square yard? What do they break it up?
The amount is per ton, and to give you just an indication, and give me a second to look at my numbers here. The front, we used 1-inch clean rock, which is a very common amount, and it was $1,314.44, and that's about, if I remember correctly, about 1/5 of what the back would need. So the price is almost double, basically, to use a bigger rock.
But you're not sure how many square yards or how many tons that is?
How many tons would be needed for the back?
I just mean, like, if you were to, what's the rate of the rock? Again, this is just going back to my previous question, on a previous agenda item.
It's $30 a ton.
$3 a ton.
$30 a ton.
Yeah.
So paying the $8 a ton does make economic sense.
Well,
But I know it's not apples to oranges, it's
Right.
it's not apples to apples. But
Well, the other benefit of us going back to the street department project, the other benefit is that it's done here and the rock remains here, so we're not having
On and
to
out.
pay the transportation costs back and forth.
No, very good, that brings it all in perspective, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you.
Well, you know, and whether it was done correctly in the past or not, if it needs done correctly now, so be it, you know, as the way it goes.
Yes, Connie?
Is there any recourse on the original contractor if they didn't do?
No, I was gonna
should've?
ask him anyway, but.
In 1995.
I doubt there is any, because, but.
Well, it's just a question, because you know.
No, it is a good question, because isn't the actual contractor who installed it the one doing the new concrete?
It also depends what specs you had to build it to report to.
And again,
I'm still gonna, you know, he would say it to us anyway, so I might as well ask the question.
Oh, that's good.
So the additional money comes out of where?
Well, it'll be their general fund, so it'll be a
Disagree.
fund balance, so.
You disagree with asking him, or you disagree with?
Well, you're gonna have the same guy do it that did it wrong the
I know.
first time? Now, that's good planning.
I thought it was warranty the first time round.
That's the way government works.
But it sounds, it sounds like the mayor is gonna look into it and ask him, kind of.
I'll ask the question, but I think I know my answer, but that's fine, but there's no harm in asking, so.
And then I'd find a different person to do it.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Yes, I'm sorry about this, Jeff, we're way past 5:45. You should have said, "Oi, you got me." Public hearing on proposed use of property located at 1700 2nd Street, Webster City, Iowa. I'll open the hearing. Are there any written objections?
No written objections?
Are there any oral objections?
No oral objections?
I do have a question though. Has that, all the zoning been done correctly? Because we have some residential, I mean, the whole area being encompassed, is that completely researched so we know exactly what we're looking at?
Yeah, the Beam Building, or the former Beam Building on Second Street is currently zoned M2 heavy commercial, and so I believe it was. I'm not sure if it's always been that way. I know it butts up against residential on the west side, so but it is properly zoned. And the council's request or the motion would be to allow the use of changing their use from what was originally intended to be processing. To now be more of a nursery hatchery for their fish fry, which was originally going to be at the spec building. So there's no change in the zoning per se, just the intended use from what was originally projected.
I'll close the hearing. We called on Daniel Sadie's saying so. Anyone else have any questions on it?
Just for the public's sake, right now we're deciding on the change of use for the facility located at the old Beam Building.
Yeah, we're approving the amendment use of pre-nursery raising early life cycle fish prior to larger grow-out facility. Ready for the larger grow-out facility to be located at 1700 2nd Street. As recommended by planning and zoning. So.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Thank you. Go back to item 16. I believe discuss the lot prices on map and covenants for Wilson Brewer Creek 5th and 6th editions.
I'll pull it up on the screen. And I apologize, I think
Did anybody here want to buy one of the lots before we get started on
Are we
it?
gonna talk about
Did you bring it?
covenants or prices first?
Both, well, I guess either or.
Looks like prices.
Anybody have any questions on the prices?
The proposed prices, right?
Proposed prices, yeah.
I'd like, for my own benefit and the public, for Daniel to explain how we make up the difference with TIF. And if that is a thing that can move like a needle, or if it's something that kind of throws off the equation. I'd just like to clarify that a little more.
Sure. I think the project was initially conceived, or even first edition, clear up to fourth edition. The Brewer Creek subdivision encompassed tax increment financing. So, well, the way that works is that you have a certain property value on a vacant lot, and as you build on it, the property value increases, and that increase in the property value is what really boils down to nuts and bolts of tax increment financing. And that as a city, through certain mechanisms and public hearings, we can then get approval to capture that difference in valuation to then apply back towards some of the development costs associated with a residential development or really any development. You've seen this both in commercial and industrial sites as well, in addition to residential. And so, in looking at the pricing for these lots, we first looked at what the overall cost of the project would be, and then divided that out to the different lots. And so we worked with Northland Securities to develop a model to get an idea of what the cost to each lot would be along two different models. One being the cost assessed as the overall square footage of each lot, and then the cost per the curb size, the curb length of each lot. So that kind of gives us two perspectives to look at in terms of determining a pricing point. And then myself and several other staff members and Zach, we went through to try to figure out what are some of those rare lots that are a little bit oddball size shape that may drive up or reduce the value and the price of those lots. And we went back, the mayor and I visited with some of the local bankers to see what our projections, our proposals would be, and they were higher than what's presented here today. And although they were higher at that point, they thought it was within range of what vacant lots would be. Mind you, we haven't had a subdivision of this size, a development of this size, come to fruition in Webster City for some time now. But they also said if we still have greater flexibility with tax increment financing, and with the city's goal of having rooftops up, of having homes developed, obviously speed would benefit the city's intent. So if we can further reduce the prices so that they're more lucrative to potential buyers, but also the lower prices or reduced prices from our original proposal would give future property owners flexibility to add more onto their homes, add more value to their homes. I'm sure they want to build bigger or add more amenities to it. Obviously, for us, it adds the benefit of having a larger tax base. A small home versus a larger one. But we also focus on Brewer Creek 6, and addressing the council's intent was to make sure that we provided lots available for middle income and low to moderate income families. And so we really sought to drill down on some of those smaller lots and making them affordable to entice the developer, entice potential families that wish to build on those smaller lots. The overall, I think, rough estimates was about $2.6 million for the total project. That's development and construction. Construction is set to be completed at the end of November, ideally right before Thanksgiving, if I'm not mistaken. And the lots, once council approves and goes through the motion, hopefully by the next meeting or the subsequent one in November 1st, then the lots will be available for sale and be able to move forward. The remaining portion, and I think I included in my memo, jump back to it. So the lot sales, so off of those proposed prices, would generate approximately $1.6 million sold at that value. The remaining difference of roughly $981,000 would be sought to be recouped through tax increment financing. For this area, for this urban renewal area, that provides us 11 years per lot to recoup that tax increment financing. It's a little bit different than a new urban renewal area today. Because of when the subdivision urban renewal was first put in place, we're able we had established it to be able to recoup the TIF on a per lot basis as opposed to a subdivision or addition basis. And that helps some flexibility in terms of how quickly or how prolonged the sales of the lots would be. So,
any cons for the amount of lot sale based recoup dollars? I guess any cons if the amount of the lots were less and the TIF would be a higher amount to.
Right. Obviously, if you even further reduce the lot prices and try to back more of it on TIF, you just run that risk of the lots not selling or the land being developed and not at a value that would recoup the TIF amount. So, in working with John Danos, who helped structure our urban renewal area and our financing mechanisms, we really looked to see what was going to be a reasonable number without taking a significant risk on that notion that if we bank it all on TIF and this comes to fruition, then the city's left holding the bag on that expense. But also, if you price them too high and try to recoup the majority of your expenses up front with lot sales, you run the risk of possibly overpricing your lots and then just letting them sit vacant for or sit empty for X amount of years. You know, I don't recall the exact numbers. I do know that at least with Brewer Creek 3 and 4, that money was recouped at a faster rate than was initially projected, and then the amounts paid off, the loans paid off a lot quicker than that 11-year mark.
Another thing I'd like to clarify is the cost of the trail was that rolled into the entire cost of 2.6 million? So technically, not all of it's gonna be recouped from lot sales, some of it will be recouped through TIF.
Correct.
I have no further questions.
I guess I do, because in a way, I think when this, the whole thing on this Brewer Creek 5 and 6 was proposed, it was, the city was gonna recoup their money because the city was doing economic development again with public funds. And my understanding was, and the way it was explained, that once we sold the lots, the city would be getting their money back. Now we're looking 11 years down the road to potentially get the money back. I mean, this just kind of seems like we're talking two different things. And,
I guess I thought TIF was the plan from the beginning, was that not true? I mean, otherwise we'd have to have $100,000 lots.
Yeah. No, it was always, I mean, the previous, all the
that was done in the
before were
previous
paid back.
council I wasn't involved with, so.
But all the previous lots, you know, Brewer Creek 3 and 4 and all that were paid off with TIF money as well. I mean, it wasn't, we had to wait for TIF money to come in before it was paid off. Before that money was paid back. And it was paid back with interest. So there's interest being earned on that money.
We made it back so fast we took off the interest.
True. On the last lot. That may happen again, but I mean, we
Made the TIF back? Right, yeah, okay. And then, in prior years or prior developments, what was the ratio to TIF to lot sales? Do you remember that? Like, because like right now I kind of see it as, it looks like almost 2/3 to 1/3, you know what I'm saying? I'm just wondering if that's relevant to prior developments, or if we're way off the mark.
Depends on the cost of the house, what the improvement is gonna bring us.
Sure.
I mean, it's different in every,
I mean, like maybe like, because I'm sure the same issue came in front of council about pricing the lots.
You're trying to ask how much
Right.
percentage we try to recoup on lot sales versus TIF.
Right, so
Yeah.
like when previous developments were priced, the lots were priced, I'm sure they had a similar breakdown. I'm just wondering if we're similar to the past, or if we're high or low, or, again, it's just as a compass for us to see what's done in the
we
past,
made
because
more in
it's successful.
TIF. We made more in TIF, and the balance is paid off with lot sales. And we had it paid off in 7 years.
So when you say that, you mean like we made more of the overall, say the overall amount was 2 million. We made over 1 million in TIF compared to under 1 million in lot sales? Okay, I see. And stuff like that kind of makes me wonder if these lot prices are too high. Because, you know, if you're looking at some of these lots, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure a lot of experts looked into this, and I'm sure these are valid lot prices, but I just worry that how fast are we gonna move a $40,000 lot, you know, or even a $25,000 lot in some of these areas. I just worry about that. The last thing I wanna do is put all this, everyone's work over the last couple of years into this, and have a lot of lots sitting there, lots in there, so, mouthful.
Lots in 4th edition were up to almost 40,000.
Really?
39 something.
Okay.
So we're actually under the price of what the lots north of there sold for.
Yeah, I think when you look at, my thing is, like these lots here, I think they're priced for 29.
Yeah, weren't those lots like 25?
They were 25, 22.
22, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Because we just had,
We
know those.
Sure.
But the ones on the other one, the Brewer Creek 5, north of Brewer Creek 5 there, they were 40,000.
Oh, sure.
And that's the reason why he brought this here, is
And
because,
they're still $40,000 a lot 20 years later, so.
That's right.
and that's the reason why we brought this, is to kind of give you some projections of what the lot prices are. So if the council really wants us to go back and even further reduce them, we can certainly kind of work through those and see how far we can go.
Well, let's ask ourselves this question. What is our goal? Is our goal to have opportunity for building, or is our goal to have building happen? And I think we'll have both no matter what, but I think we'll push the direction of what happens based on what we price these lots at, so.
Well, this is something we can ponder on too, right? I mean, this is
Yeah,
just,
we're not, and we're
this is
not
just a start.
making any decisions tonight, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think the point is, you look at it in economic terms, you look at the point of equilibrium, and you have a lot priced at $40,000, and somebody comes along and offers you $30,000, and you go through and decide where you're gonna settle, then when you reach a settlement point, that's your equilibrium point on that particular lot. So I think, we can have it priced whatever we want, but it's whatever people are gonna offer for the lots. I mean, it's kinda like you don't go and pay the new price when you go to a car, on a used car. I mean, the list price on a car, you start negotiating, and I guess these aren't absolute prices, are they, by any, I mean.
Yeah, well, that's what they would be, because that's what we're trying to set as an absolute price.
Yeah.
So
In a normal
you come
circumstance,
back
you're
and-
exactly right. With this, with city government involved though, what we've done in the past is just set the price, hold a public hearing, and the price is set permanently for those lots. Because if you allow someone to come in and put an offer on it, then you have to run another public hearing, and you would be holding 52 public hearings in front of, for every lot that's sold. So that's why it's like, get it right the first time and stick with it, because if not, you run into an issue of having to run public hearings. If you, a dozen at one meeting, let's say, if all of a sudden 12 houses, so.
Maybe when we get down to the last three, we can do that.
Yeah.
Carla, but I looked at you, now, on a lot of the lots you sold in the past, did you get the asking price every time?
Every time,
Because that's
There was
exactly
no
why, because
option.
it was set and that was it.
yeah, no option.
Ever get higher?
They won't
You
take
get
it.
higher?
We were offered higher. Remember just recently?
Right, just recently, I'm just saying, like, in Brewer Creek,
Yeah, you turned it
3
down.
and 4.
Yeah, 'cause it was, when they did it back then, it was, you put your name on it and it was, and you paid the down payment and it was yours, so there was never a bidding war.
I see.
Did we do any comparison with outside communities our size on lots for sale, see square footage and what they're priced at?
Well, I guess our size, that was a hard part. Probably the closest community that had a significant development like this was Ames. And lots were going for what would be 30,000, they were going for 50, 60 down there, if not more. Other communities, that's just unfortunately a lot of rural communities our size just aren't having a lot of growth on something of this magnitude. I know Humboldt they've done some small subdivisions, 6 lots at a time, and they sell them by auction. And they typically they have a local builder, and he buys them all at whatever price he bids them on, and he builds on them, and so that's just how they do it. So.
Be a big auction.
So the house on the hill's gonna be 70,000? A lot?
51,000 square feet.
Which one of those would you like?
Or how much of it's gonna be buildable? Gonna take down 100 trees.
And you have a trail
I think
back
that's what
there.
they want, that's what
Oh,
they'll
yeah, we
want.
got a trail. That makes it worth more.
It's called amenities.
Well, so you're seeking some advice and direction on tonight, right?
If you guys want us to kind of look back and further reduce them, we can. Or if you guys are comfortable with that, we can kind of just move forward with those prices and finalize our TIF and all the other legalities behind it.
I think we have interest in it, and us delaying this is just delaying houses getting built as soon as it's ready, right?
Right.
So at one point, these were priced higher and we've come down from where we were at before, from other advice, that's their advice.
What were they priced before?
No, they were priced higher, is what you were saying.
Right. Yeah. So say for instance, these are at 39, I think they were originally, we had looked at pricing them at 50. So these that were 69, I think they were originally priced them like at 75 or 78. The ones down, like 15,995, they were originally priced, I think, 23 or 24, and the 24,995s, they were closer to 31, 32. To give you some idea of where they were at.
And both two of the banks we went to said that with those higher prices that they would lend money to people if they want to build those. That figure does work out to build a house on.
These prices?
No, with the higher prices.
The higher ones?
Yeah. They only, one of the bankers says it's fine, it works out fine. It's the other ones, he said it works out fine, except that if you could sell them for less, and you hopefully you would move them
expedite that.
which is why we dropped them.
And that's where I'm at too. Again, I guess interpreting what I'm hearing tonight correctly, our TIF pays us back at probably a faster rate than maybe could be reflected on the breakout here, which means we possibly could lower the lots, sales, which could possibly stimulate faster sales of them, which we do already have interest in.
That all depends on the quality of the house built on it. Yeah. Right.
Correct. Which leads us to the next topic, the covenants, that kind of tailor that, size, garages, all that good stuff. We're kind of insured that way.
Because I look at these and there's none of them where I say, you know, like what percent would you go down on each of them? You know, what makes it a more appealing, 39 or 35? You know, I think when we start nitpicking like that,
I wouldn't nitpick one at a time. I'd do across the board reduction.
well, that's what I'm saying. What percentage would you do that would make it look appealing throughout?
Sure. Now, and that's something that would set us apart as a 8,000 to 9,000 person community with lot sales, possibly 10 or 15% the market right now. And that's what I see these as a tool we can use to attract growth and stimulate interest in Webster City, not just put homes up. If we can somehow market ourselves as a more appealing place to live and build a home, and have that reassurance that TIF could make up the difference, I would probably seek out a 10 to 20% reduction in the cost of the lots, and then we market that. But again, I don't know what the market is per se. It sounds like we sound lower than Ames, but Ames is really a comparable. So again, I would need that data, but that's what I would want to do. I've always thought of this development as a tool to attract both new development and our housing market, but then also growing our population.
I'm just trying to think, maybe this isn't comparable, but Dyke has that newer housing district. I know they're pretty close to Cedar Falls, so that sways it too, but I wonder what those lots go for, you know, or what they went for. I heard it was a lot, but I don't know what that means.
Those are big lots too, because they have pretty big homes on them. At least the ones you see from the interstate, you know, the north side of the interstate.
So hypothetically, let's look at like the lots in Berwick 5, they were 39.95. If you take off 10% of that, that'll put it at 35.95.
I would hate to target an exact percentage without knowing what market we're in, and comparable lot sales, but again, I would like to be on the more aggressive side of lot sales, just to stimulate the building.
Aggressively well.
Well, I have two
That
questions.
just
So
extend our-
one is, how many people have we asked express the desire to buy these lots up there? And two, has all this been reviewed with the existing realtors in Webster City? For their input, you talked about the financial institutions, but what about the real estate people? Were they consulted, because they'll be ultimately the ones selling the property? Because
No, they're not selling the properties.
Well, no, but I mean, they're gonna be getting involved in this type of situation. Have we asked their input? They're the professionals in this area. You know, when it comes right down to it, they've been in the business for a long time.
No, I guess to answer the question of the realtors, no, the realtors haven't been contacted in terms of the pricing. The bankers were the ones that we asked, because obviously for the lending, but they do more of the acreage sales, whether that be for ag land or otherwise.
And I think to Jim's point, I mean, that's one thing that was kind of a tripping point in the pricing and the advice given to the pricing of the 3 homes that we sold last year. You're saying possibly seek out realtor input, take it to heart for the setting the price.
Well, I think, you know, I mean, we're sitting here, we went through this fiasco, nobody was here involved in those 3 houses, but on the council, but we get in this scenario now. Let's ask the professionals what they think about this. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Well, when
I mean, I was raised 11 miles from Missouri, so you gotta show me, okay? Missouri's a show me state, and I think we gotta show a little common sense here instead of saying the bankers.
The common sense part of this was that.
No, the common sense is we get the realtors.
We went to the bankers, because they're the ones who have to do the figures to build a house.
That could be an
And if
area.
their figures don't work, the realtor doesn't work, none of it works.
Well,
So he's the guy that passes the line to say you can build the house.
so I mean, what I'm hearing you saying, that you don't wanna solicit their input, but the other question is, how many people have we had waiting to make the offers on the?
When we had the problem with the houses, as part of the problem with that whole housing thing that went down by the council, was that they had some realtors that were suggesting that whole thing went the way it went.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason they got into the trouble they should have gone to the banks and asked them whether it worked.
When I first got on the council, Jim, something I did, that whole housing thing was coming, and what I found out is, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but what I believe to be true is the bankers weren't really talked to on those 3 houses, and they would have told us, those are too high, we can't lend for that amount. So we're learning from that and using that in this situation and making
Yeah,
sure.
at the expense of the city of Webster City's taxpayers, because that's where the money came from.
Again, that's in the past, but we're learning from the
No,
past.
it's not by the past. If you don't know what's happened in the past, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to fail again in the future.
And that's what I'm saying.
So that's what
in
I'm
our
saying.
past,
That's why
we
asked
talked to the
that's why we
realtors,
asked the banks.
not
But
the
this
bankers.
also has realtors, just to get a second opinion.
What Jim's saying
And
is,
that's fine.
and what I was led to believe was opposite of that. I'm not saying we didn't not talk to the bank, but that realtors did give opinions that were not what was taken. That their opinions didn't hold much weight to the direction of the council. But again, that was before me, and I'm not privy to all the conversations had.
Right.
I'm just going off of what I was given knowledge to. So with Jim, I think you guys both have the same point. You're trying to learn from the past and talk to the bankers. Jim is under the impression, and so am I, that we maybe didn't take the advice of the realtors. So he's asking we talk to the realtors as well. You guys have the same idea, just different ends of it, I think. So.
It's fine, we're going to ask the realtors, that's fine. But at the end of the day, the realtor just sells real estate. He's not the guy that's going to build a house on it.
No, I understand it. The bankers, I understand, the bankers are the ones that do the numbers. The realtors maybe know the market better, and maybe taking their market opinion might be beneficial. Again, I'm willing to kind of reach out on a limb and just get aggressive with the pricing.
I know what you're saying is you'd like to see the price reduced in case we have the chance, because that was part of the reasoning why we thought if we dropped it that much more than if the banks reckon it worked at this, then what if we dropped it this much more, then we'd be able to move them that much quicker.
Sure.
Because our idea is that we would move them faster and not slower. And I haven't got a problem with it, should we look at reducing it more? It's just going to take the TIF a little longer to pay it off.
Sure.
Which is fine, except that in the long run, I mean, of course, we want our TIF money as well, because that money we're not having to run the city. But yes.
Is there a common denominator comparison between what people pay for the lot and what size house they put on? At one time, I thought it was like 10 to 9. If you paid $10,000 for your lot, you'd put a $90,000 house on it. Is there anything to that?
I don't know. I hadn't heard that.
Or 10 to 9, 1 to 9?
But there's no harm in us going and asking the realtors that one. That's not a bad question, just the same.
But above and beyond realtor or bank input, again, I want to.
We've still got to get.
This is an attractive tool to either stimulate our housing market or bring in outsiders. And I think that the taxpayers that we use their money to build this with would appreciate us doing both. And I think a lower lot rate would either benefit somebody living currently in Webster City wanting to build, because they would benefit from a lower lot rate and be able to still stay in their hometown or the town they currently reside in, or attract more people to the community, which brings great benefits. So that's just where I'm at. Again, I don't want to price this too thin. That's why I want more information and more market data, but that's where I'm at.
Okay.
And my other question, do we have people asking about buying lots yet?
Have you had any more recently, or?
I've had, the sad part is they keep wanting to know the price and I can't tell them. But I've probably had a dozen people ask me, do you have the map done? Do you have the prices set? Do you know? And one has spoken for a lot and didn't even know the price, so.
So that's $1 million lot.
Almost.
2.6, well, I understand where you're coming from and wanting to make them as appealing as possible to get, those developed as fast as we can. And I'm okay with taking a little more time to evaluate that, I just don't want it to drag out too long to where we're now inhibiting somebody from making that decision because we drug it out too long.
Good
Maybe
point.
these numbers will be appealing, we'll just have to look.
Good point. Did you say, Daniel, that the construction won't be done till November, so the prices probably can't be set anyway till the beginning of December?
No,
The prices can be set anytime, even
I
though
think,
construction's
yeah,
not
we're
completely done with
looking
the
to set
plot.
the prices, I think November 1st, if I'm not mistaken, or the first week of November.
Sorry, say that one more
We were
time.
looking to set the prices the first meeting in November.
Okay, so we have another meeting.
We've got, see, the Brewer Creek 5's ready to go. It can be sold now. It's Brewer Creek 6, I think it's been put back again, isn't it, for some extra work or something?
Yes, it's being set back for 22 days because of some grading issues.
You know, the hard part with looking at looking at some rough figures, because we are dealing with 17 lots in Brewer Creek 5 and 35 lots in Brewer Creek 6. You know, and if we looked at trying to reduce as a percentage, even by 10%, some of those lots are not going to be reduced any that significantly.
Sure. Oh, I understand the bigger the number,
You're right.
the bigger the 10%.
Right.
But,
So I guess it depends, and I guess probably for some clarity for us to look at, do you want us to look at making all of them reduce by a certain percentage, or did you want to try to look at the smaller lots versus the bigger lots?
I would prefer it to be spread across the board, but that's just, I'll let others speak on that.
Well, it's to take $4,000 off a $39,000,
Right.
basically.
Versus like those $15,000 lots just reduces by 1,500.
Right.
And those are the ones we're trying to
Right.
keep
But
down.
that's still significant. There's, I guess, you know, the 10%'s fine. I mean, how much, what was that put on now? What's it, give us another 200,000?
Right.
250,000. 260,000, yeah.
But again, I'm only for this if it's marketed correctly. If we can show ourselves as a lower lot rate to a comparable town in our market. So, I mean, again, if we're still not even close to a comparable price-wise, then why drop it 10% if we're not gonna be down below the market average for a city our size?
I think we're below Humboldt, we're below Ames.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we are definitely.
But we don't have much comparison to the other ones.
And I think that's where it's difficult, is without that comparison, you know, what is 3,000, 5,000? Is it really, do we have anything to know that?
Right.
You know,
And
that's the difficult.
And that's why I tentatively would like to do that with more market data. If that data isn't something that's readily available or something that we really have, then we run into that, we're literally shooting in the dark. You know, we're literally setting the prices in the dark. Now, granted, I don't want to diminish any work that's gone into this. I know a lot of people have weighed in, but.
Well, I wouldn't say it's completely in the dark. We've had a lot of, yeah.
Right. And again, that's why I don't want to disrespecting the work being done, but I feel that without a comparable lot rate to a comparable community, we're setting our own market and crossing our fingers in a sense, you know.
Well, I think having the banker's input though, I mean, you need to know end of the day, lot price plus building a house, is it mortgageable? I mean, that's the key.
Yep.
And if they've said the previous set prices are, and we know we're within the ballpark, it's just how aggressive do you want to be to market it to get people into the community?
You know, I guess for one perspective, I think the lots in Home Edition, west of the hospital, those were going for $24,000 for roughly 15,000 square foot lots. You know, here we have 11, 12,000 square foot lots going for 24 and 29. And obviously those are just sold, but the location or our Brewer Creek 6 and 5 are in a much more ideal location versus those being by the railroad and such. So, moving on to covenants, switching gears.
I guess has anyone got any covenant there that stands out that they don't like, I guess.
You got
What did we use to bring, I guess my first question would be, what did we use to bring these? Was this standard we pulled from other communities within?
Yeah,
fires?
we surveyed other communities, some both within, well, including the covenants that are out in Home Edition, but also covenants in some of the growing communities around Des Moines and outside the state as well, to look at just how things were worded and what they allow or don't allow and what's common practice. And so that's where some of these were coming with. One of the key things under the construction requirements, you really want to make sure that obviously someone that's buying a large lot doesn't decide to build a tiny home, and we really want to get a value out of that. So we want to place some words, some language to try to ensure that the lot is proportional to the desired home that could be constructed.
And the other important one is the covenant 5 under construction requirements, that person has 12 months to after purchasing it to get the property started, and has to be completed within 18 months of closing, so that
We gotta build out.
because if you're gonna recoup it on TIF, obviously you have to have houses to make any sort of TIF recoup. So. And if they don't put it up within 18 months, the city can repurchase the property back at the same price that they sold it and then resell it again. So.
No, that makes sense. I understand why we put that in for this particular development or developments.
And the other one I was just thinking of is 6, where modular homes are allowable. There was concerns on modular homes or not. We can't not allow modular homes. State law says we have to allow.
It's been done before. Come on.
Yeah, well, apparently if we're in a TIF district, we have to allow modular homes to be brought in, or put up. Which there's a definition of the difference between modular and mobile.
Have we changed the roofing and all that sort of stuff so that we can't have them? So, isn't that the angle of?
No, well, we
You
don't
didn't
allow,
wanna do that.
currently we don't allow mobile or manufactured homes, which eliminates most of what it might be.
Can you put up here?
Any questions?
What's that?
Yeah,
Can you
I
put
have
up
some
here?
comments. Can I just sit here, or do you want me to go up there?
Probably come up.
We'd love you to come up.
Canvas houses running around.
Oh.
Connie Evans, 1620 Juanita Court. I've been a proofreader my whole life. So, just our land uses in that very first sentence. All parking of motor vehicles on the lot shall be located on a hard surface. Don't you want a comma there before you get to constructed? Then in 2, you're not allowing lease. The entire residence may be rented or leased only to no more than 2 unrelated adults. So a husband and wife can't rent it.
Only to no more than.
Unrelated, it would be considered related then, they're married.
Okay. It may be rented or leased only to no more than 2 unrelated adults. You can't. How can you lease it to a husband and wife if you're leasing it only to no more than 2 unrelated adults? I don't know what you're trying to say. I mean, I don't know who wrote this or what they're trying to say, but it didn't make sense to me.
Basically, I think it's trying to say unrelated adult, it's not really precluding related at all, it's talking strictly unrelated. And it's trying to prevent someone from having 4 or 5 parties involved in leasing or renting that property.
College house.
Yeah.
Okay, but maybe there's a different way to say that. I don't know. And then your 5 down at the bottom, there is where you're saying you have to build. But I question too a choice of words there. You want building to begin within 12 months after each lot is purchased. So they can wait 12 months to purchase, but then you want it completely done 18 months after closing, which is also the purchase date, so they can complete the building in only 6 months. Is that reasonable? I don't know if it is or not.
Well, they have 18 months total to do it, so if they wanna wait till the 12th month to start work on it, then yeah, they only have 6 months to finish it.
Okay.
The idea is,
I just said I wasn't. And then if they don't begin construction, then the city has the option to purchase it back. In other words, we can just go in and say, you haven't built and therefore we're taking it back and here's your check. Then what's our penalty, or how do we handle it if we get into month 19 and they're not done with the building? Is that a municipal infraction then?
We haven't, I guess we never addressed that one yet, but you're right, I mean, at month 19, if 3/4 of the house is done, you would hope.
Huge snowstorm.
You would hope they would.
They didn't know how cold it was gonna be?
I mean, I would hope the city would be reasonable in that sense, that they're almost close to finishing it, but I guess that's why we say option. The city has the option to purchase it back.
But you're on that, when they're not finishing their building, I mean, if they just pedal around on weekends and build a little and build a little.
Right. But there's always the potential that they could lose the work that they've done, because the city would repurchase the lot back with whatever improvements have been done to it. Benefit for the city, I guess.
Okay. And then 8, the exterior of the home shall be compatible and complementary to the neighborhood.
I didn't write this one.
No, I'm not picking on anybody, I'm just saying, who makes that decision?
Yeah, and that was my exact note on this one, I will
It was complimentary, okay.
There was other ones as well about color of houses that couldn't be gaudy, flamboyant, and my argument then, the same argument is
Well, my
who
daughter
makes
was-
that determination.
My daughter always said she wanted to put up diagonal siding. I think most people would object to that. Landscaping. Owners are prohibited from making material changes to the grade levels of the lots without the written approval of the developer.
The city.
Shouldn't it say the city though, rather than the developer? They're never referred to developer otherwise. Okay, then down here, 3, they're talking about all these kind of trees you can't plant, or other obnoxious trees, or other noxious trees, it says.
Noxious.
Shall be planted, no, they're saying you can't plant all these on the development unless they are an existing planting to the site. So if there's already a box elder there, you can plant another box elder beside it, or since it's already there, you just have to be able to leave it.
Right, that's the idea. The city's not gonna make you take out a box elder tree just because it was already there.
But do we have any trees that were?
On the 5th edition, there isn't any trees there anyway, but.
I mean, there is some, I know there is some.
Oh, yeah, well, that's
hill and
true,
stuff, the back property,
on the
there's
expensive
trees.
lots, yes, there's a lot of trees there.
There's a lot of trees.
So those could have.
So if that situation, if they have box elder or American elm, native cottonwood, all those, then they're allowed to leave them, they just can't plant new ones.
Maybe we just want to take them all down before they get there?
No, we should.
Whatever, anyway.
We should say
That was
that,
just something that I had a question about.
we should use those trees as the marketing plan. You're only paying $30,000 for the lot and $39,000 for the trees.
Yeah. Back in, and then next page, general restrictions. 3, satellite dishes cannot be placed on the front of the roof, dwelling, or in the front yard. Do you mean front of the roof, front of the dwelling, or in the front yard?
All of them.
What if that's the only place you can get
But
reception?
the way it's
You can't have
written,
satellite dish.
That's what the covenant.
I should.
I think the way it's written, it says you can't have the satellite dish on the dwelling,
On the front of the dwelling.
but then you need to put front up. And then down on 5, no exterior towers or antennas. And they can be no more than 5 feet in height and shall be permitted if attached directly to either the dwelling or the garage out of sight of neighboring properties. In other words, you can't have it, because if you put it in the back, your back door neighbor can see it. If you put it on the side, your side neighbor's seeing it.
If you don't have a backdoor neighbor or a side neighbor, then more than that.
Who out there doesn't have a back door neighbor
All
or
the ones
will
on-
have?
All the ones on the hill won't have a
If your back neighbor can see it, you can put up a
None of the people
fence.
that are adjoining Highway 20 will have a backdoor neighbor.
If that's what you want to say, that's fine. Then we get down to enforcement. I really think number 3 should come first, where it identifies the Webster City as the administrator, so that when you're talking an administrator in Lot 1 and Lot 2, you know who they are. And in 2,
I think that was put as 3 because it was just explaining who the administrator was, and the idea being the city doesn't want to be the administrator forever of these lots. Once the lots are developed, then they appoint their own administrator to handle
Okay. And then all lot owners shall front the cost of legal action equally? Isn't that more of a homeowners association than individual lot owners?
Where's that one? I didn't see that.
2, third line down, 5 words in.
Carla, did you add that one?
Yeah,
It
it
came
was from
out
Home
of
Edition.
somebody else's,
I think that was Home Editions.
Yeah, I think
was it?
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
we probably don't want that in there. And then 3,
Well, you may want that. I mean, obviously, the burden's gonna be on the homeowners as a subdivision to decide whether they wanna pursue action with said neighbor. Otherwise, what's your recourse?
the administrator's gonna take care of it.
Well, supposedly,
I don't know.
the administrator's gonna be the association of the neighborhood or whatever later on,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Right, so the idea is, once all the lot sells, the city will no longer be the administrator of, say,
So hopefully it'll be a
5,
neighborhood.
and then it'll be one person who will be the administrator of that.
And then when the neighborhood becomes the administrator, then they.
But you're not going to select a different administrator unless everybody gets together and agrees they wanna do it.
Yeah. Hopefully they will, because we don't know.
Yeah.
And along those
And maybe one of
lines,
those where the city says they're no longer going to be the administrator.
would it be easier to have those administrators doing their things if 5 was separate from 6, since they don't even live together? I mean,
And
one's
they
over
would be,
here.
because
Well, that's true.
3 would be their own division, 4
Is-
their own subdivision.
Has anyone done one in the past at any of those,
Has anybody what?
has anybody formed a
Covenants or?
a association at all in Brewer Creek, 1, 2, 3, 4?
No.
Just
But
home,
they're
home edition.
very, yeah, Home Edition has, but Brewer
Doesn't,
Creek is very mindful of their covenants,
Very true.
especially Fourth.
Yeah.
doesn't 4 have covenants as well?
Fourth? Oh, yeah, they have more than 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the changes, I mean, all the owners must vote yes for any change to happen, okay?
So which lot do you want?
Yeah.
Which lot do I want? I think it's 7 of Block 7 in Juanita Heights Edition.
It's nowhere near on the map.
Good choice.
It's already paid for too.
So you get more when you sell it.
Okay.
No, I'm gonna stay with.
Thanks, Connie.
Thank you, Connie. Yes. Has anyone else got any questions on those?
So did you get the answer you needed, Daniel, as far as?
Sure.
What is the next steps for the city to take from this?
So you want a consensus from council? Is
Yeah,
that
I
you
mean,
go
obviously-
back to reevaluate?
I think as I understood it, in terms of the prices, you want to see if there's some wiggle room to further reduce them to make them more lucrative to market. Touching base with some of the realtors to see what they think. On the covenants, the goal was to obviously see if there's any corrections or additions council would like, otherwise move forward with finalizing those and bring that back as a formal action for the council to approve and implement as we start marketing and sale these lots, so.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
guess the covenants are fine, aren't they? Fairly well the way they are.
I mean, there's some corrections Connie brought to light
Yeah.
that maybe we could mark up, but yeah, I'm in agreement with the majority of the wording of the code.
And we're gonna get some more, see if we can get some more fact finding for what other lots are going for around the neighborhood, I guess.
From the realtors and from the
Well,
other
also
towns?
see what the other towns are doing, see if we can get any more, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the hard part, and I mean, just looking at I think there's something in Fort Dodge Messenger this morning, it's just about how the lack of development in recent years. So we're all kind of going through the struggle of trying to figure out what is that sweet spot in terms of pricing the lots and trying to get some growth out of that, so.
Okay. So you know where you're going with it. Okay. Item D, reports, recommendations of officers, boards and commissions. Are there any committee reports? Are there any other reports or recommendations? We've got Zach's, did you want to comment on your report at all? Or?
Yeah, so September was busy, it was interesting, it was a good month for the city, just a lot of things going on. So currently right now we're still working with the county and Xenia on what's called a water service territory transfer agreement for the new conference center out there. We were hoping to present to you an agreement for today's council meeting. Unfortunately, there's still some things that need to be ironed out between the county and the city and Xenia on this agreement, so everybody's comfortable with what it is. Essentially what's happening is Xenia is, the size of the conference center and the amount of water that they'll need, Xenia is just unable to provide. And so currently that's a Xenia territory. It's within the 2 mile though of the city. So what happens in those situations is Xenia gives up they essentially transfer that territory back to the city, and then the city would take over off of Virginia Parkway, providing water to the county in that situation. So we're still working on that agreement. It's, I would say it's going to be on the 16th agenda. I'm certain on that unless something crazy happens in the meantime. Second one was just what we talked about with the residential lots. You can see the amount of work that's gone into that lately, just to get everything ready to get these lots sold still this year, so that people can begin construction next year in spring when major construction starts. And then just to follow up to those deeds that we had talked about last meeting, we got all the quitclaim deeds back, so we're good in that situation. The city's back in possession of everything. And we're just currently trying to clean up some loose ends on that before we move forward with anything in regards to those lots, which Daniel, I know, emailed you guys an update. So, as always, I'm here to answer questions.
So
Yeah, so what was the update?
if we got everything back, then Luke's had been down, so now they can put an offer in?
Nope, not yet. What's happened is there's the three lots we've now gone. There's still a purchase agreement in place for those previous sale of those lots. It's not as easy as just missing the closing date and then just saying, well, if the purchase agreement is no longer valid, we can move on. That's not how it works, in the sense of we have to get out of that initial purchase agreement. Both sides are in agreement to get out of the agreement. It's just now we're waiting. I provided their attorney with what's called a rescission to the purchase agreement, and I'm just waiting on signatures on that. Once we get that back, and if everything goes like we think it will so far, and we get that rescinded, then the lots will become available. We can't put them available now or even go down that road, because it'd be essentially double dealing in that situation, where we have a current purchase agreement and then we can't enter into a second one while we still haven't got this one rescinded yet.
So what you're saying, they are determined to get out of it, so there hasn't been any sidebar negotiations on anything then?
No, they just expressed their interest in getting out of it. So.
We just want to make sure that we have all our I's.
Right, and that's what I said the last meeting as well.
And T's crossed because of the people we're dealing with. We make sure that.
Yeah, it's just standard practice to purchase. Sometimes deals don't work out, so they rescind it, but we're dealing with people in Texas and stuff, that takes longer for stuff to get passed around. So.
You better sign pretty soon, it's cold up there now. Everything will dry up.
Yeah. So once that takes place, I'll make you all aware, and then at that point in time, the lots can be then placed back on the market for anyone.
Yeah.
And am I correct that does not take any council action to sell the lots?
No. It's just so. Then it should be sold for what the price was on it.
You'll have to approve a purchase agreement.
Yeah, we'll
and execution of a deed still. You just don't have to hold public hearings.
No.
So there's still,
He pays the amount that was on the original deal, and
they sign a purchase agreement, we set closing, we present the purchase agreement to you guys and execute a deed, and closing happens, we record the deed, and so.
Yeah.
So on each lot, that would have to happen, it would come back to council before the lot could be sold to anybody.
Same thing when these next 52 lots are for sale, it'll be the same thing. We hold one public hearing already, we already held a public hearing on these lots.
The question will be whether we're going to make the 2 lots, if there's 2 lots left or 3 lots left, whether we'd make them the same as the neighbouring lots beside them and tie them into the same
Well, that's your guys' decision.
I mean, otherwise
You can send it at the
you have a
public
lot, otherwise you have a lot sitting there at 22,000 and then you have a lot right across next to it that's 28 or
Well, sure, well,
Better get on it now.
especially if we do, you know, go down the path of possibly reducing it more, you could have a lot that sat there for 10, 15 years, that's the same price as the brand new one.
Well, true, well, we
Yeah,
have
we
that,
could-
basically you have that now. In the
Yeah.
5th edition, you already have that. So,
Cool, yeah.
The difference is now is obviously there's roads that connect those lots and
Right.
Okay. What's it, homecoming parade request for October 13th? Is that?
I've heard back from fire department, police department, and street department that that is fine, so I'll issue the permit, this week sometime for next Friday, the 13th.
Friday the 13th, be a good parade. Full of crazies will be out. Okay, then October 30th, don't forget, 7 PM, town hall meeting at the middle school.
Commons is available, so I put in to request that venue and it should be fine, so.
On that, I call for motion to adjourn. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Same sign.